Hi guys, today I'm tell you how to update the BIOS software for a Windows computer. Keep in mind that your BIOS rarely needs updating, and updating the BIOS indirectly can render your computer completely inoperable. Mac computers do not use a BIOS. First, downloading the BIOS update file. Open Start, click the Windows logo in the bottom left corner of the screen. Open System Information. Type MS-Info into the Start window. Then click System Information at the top of the Start window. Click your computer's model name next to the System Model heading. You will see a list of numbers and letters. This is your computer's model name. You will need this information when you search for the BIOS update file. Skip this step if you have a custom built computer. Find your BIOS variant number next to the BIOS variant update heading. You will see a company name, your computer's model name, and a number after a period. The number after the period is your BIOS variant. For a computer with the model number Q553UB and a BIOS set to variant 202. For example, you would see Q553UB202 here. If you are using a custom built computer, you will need to find your motherboard's model instead of using the computer model number. Open your BIOS manufacturer support site. Generally, the easiest way to do this is by typing your computer's manufacturer name, your computer's model name, and drivers or BIOS into Google and then selecting the proper link. This process will vary depending on your computer's manufacturer, so you may have to click through a few different links before you find the correct one. If you are using a custom built computer, you will need to look up your computer's motherboard name along with BIOS and update, and then open the manufacturer's website. Find the BIOS update file depending on the website. You may have to open the update, support, or downloads section first, or click a BIOS heading. Once you have found the BIOS file, you can proceed. Again, this may involve some trial and error. Make sure the update file is newer than your BIOS variant. In the file's name, you should see a variant number. If this variant number is higher than your BIOS variant number, your BIOS is outdated and thus can be updated. If the variant number on the website matches your BIOS variant number, your BIOS is up to date and does not need updating. Even if your current BIOS variant is a whole number, e.g. 301, and the file on the site is listed as a higher digital, e.g. 301.1. The site's file is a higher variant than your BIOS uses. Download the update file. Click the download link button or icon to do so. Once your BIOS update the file finishes downloading, you can proceed with updating your BIOS. In some cases, you may have to click the file's name to permit it to download. Most BIOS update files will download inside of a zip folder. Make sure your computer is plugged into a reliable power source, since you can permanently ruin your BIOS if your computer turns itself off during the update process. You will want to use a reliable power source. If you are using a laptop, your computer's battery should be fully charged in addition to the laptop plugged in. Extract your BIOS file. In most cases, you will have to extract or unzip the BIOS update file from within its folder. Double-click the downloaded zip file to open it. Click the Extract tab at the top of the window. Click Extract All. Click Extract when permitted. Wait for the extracted folder to open. Read your BIOS file README document if applicable. If a text document labeled README or similar is available, double-click it to open it and read the entire document before proceeding. If the README file's instructions for updating your BIOS contradict the instructions in the rest of this article, make sure you follow the README's instruction instead. Plug a USB flash drive into your computer. Since your BIOS won't be able to access your computer's files, you will need to put the BIOS update file on the blank USB flash drive. Copy the BIOS file into the flash drive. Click once the BIOS file, press Ctrl plus C to copy it. Then open your flash drive and press Ctrl plus V to paste in your copied file. You need to leave the flash drive plugged into your computer for the duration of the update process. Access the BIOS page. Prompt your computer to restart by clicking Start, clicking Power and clicking Restart. Then immediately begin pressing the key your computer's manufacturer assigned to the BIOS startup. If the BIOS doesn't launch, you will need to start again and try a different key. For most computers, this key is one of the function keys. For example, F12. Thought some computers use the del key or the S key. If you don't know your computer's BIOS key, look it up by typing your computer's manufacturer name, model name and BIOS key into a search engine. Backup your BIOS if possible. If you see a backup or save, open on the BIOS main screen, or if you see a backup tab at the top of the screen, select it and follow any on-screen instructions. This will ensure that you can restore your BIOS setting later if your BIOS update doesn't pair well with your computer. You may instead be prompted to backup your BIOS once you initiate the backup process. Not all BIOS pages allow to backup their settings. Enable and use your BIOS update tool. Each BIOS will have a slightly different way of accessing the BIOS update tool, so you may have to consult your BIOS manufacturer support site for a direct explanation of how to do so. In many cases, you will select the Boot tab. Ensure that your USB flash drive shows up. Enable any backup or flash opens in the menu, and then select the Start Flash Open from the Advanced tab. Sometimes pressing the BIOS key while a USB drive is plugged in will bring up a unique menu that allows you to select an update option and follow the on-screen instructions. This is common on Dell computers. Allow your computer's BIOS to update. This process can take a few minutes to over an hour, depending on your computer and depth of the BIOS update. Once your BIOS is finished updating, your computer should restart itself, though you may be prompted to confirm this decision. Do not turn off your computer while the BIOS is updating. Doing so can cause the BIOS to becoming corrupted, meaning that your computer will be unable to start, complete the BIOS installation or otherwise run at all.